Welcome to What the Hex, your source for Warhammer Underworlds in under 30 desecration tokens. Today I'm your host, Phil, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Davy. How you doing, Davy?
I'm good, almost as always. We can say always, I guess.
Well,
but we'll put an asterisk.
Yeah. We won't have to talk about the dark times.
Doing great. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about some cool underworld stuff.
Yeah, got the new warband to talk about.
Yep.
Some Kagra's Ravagers,
or as Phil calls them, that one that came before the Lizardmen, Seraphon.
Yeah. BS, I guess, instead of BC, like BSE.
Before Seraphon era.
Yeah.
One warband before Seraphon. One WB BSE.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Sounds
cool.
Good.
Yeah. That's gonna catch on like wildfire.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So, if you couldn't have told from that, our topic today is going to be talking about the new warband, the Ravagers, and some of the cards that came out in that set. Just to give you a little bit of context about when we're recording, basically, the Ravagers are just going on pre-order. They'll be going on pre-order just shortly after we're recording here. And so you can expect to see them out in about a week's time. Okay, so we got some community shout-outs. Looks like, Davey, you got a community shout-out here?
Yeah, I've actually got a couple here. One, I've had some time to catch up on some podcasts. I think I mentioned it before, but I worked my way back through some of Path to Glory's ones. They have their warband overviews, and so I was picking my favorite warbands and listening to Tom Bond talk about Godsworn Hunt and Jimmy Molini talk about Ravager or about Reavers. So that's fun. Listen to Battle for Salvation's latest, which is about the Dread Pageant. If the only thing you do is go and listen to like the first 3 minutes of that, it'll be worth your time. Max really kind of outdoes himself there. He also outdoes himself later. It's definitely like a teenage boy tee-hee sort of vibe going through a lot of that. But it was fun. Got some Battle Mallet representation on there too, which was cool to hear. So
nice.
Yeah, Jason was chatting with them, and he's got some good takes there. So and I do like that warband a lot. So it was fun to listen to. And just to keep plowing through some, Path to Glory's also running a team tournament, an alliance format thing, and I am a backup player for a team, but I got called up off the bench right away and got to play in that right off the bat against Steel City, and it was awesome. I got to play against Ali Bond, who I've never met. I've pseudo met him now online, and he was a great player, really gentlemanly, and we had a really fun time. It was awesome. So
sweet.
Appreciate all those guys. They're cool dudes. So yeah, those are my shout outs. You got anything, or have I kind of sucked up all the oxygen?
I think that's most everything that's been going on. But I guess speaking of Path to Glory, I have been trying to catch up on a few of their episodes as well. So those have been fun. Haven't been listening to a lot of them just because I've been busy with work. But yeah, everything's been good. Community is pretty great. Always love seeing all the stuff that's going on Vassal and all the different podcasts and blogs.
Yeah. Just there's resources are great out there. I was trying to remember like what the names of some of the new boards were. It's like, gosh, where am I even going to find that? I was like, Underworld's DB or Deckers or whatever. Both of them have the laid out the boards with all their names. Like, it's so helpful.
That is super helpful because I can never ever remember those for the name. It's just I should probably label the boards so I can just like start to associate the name with the board while I'm playing. But
I know. I'll just get a printout of them and their names and tape it to the ceiling of as I go to sleep at night. I can. All right. Shard cursed, shade cursed.
Damn
it. Yeah. So good stuff in the community. What the heck is going on with you, Phil?
Well, not a whole lot, unfortunately. in a bit of a holding pattern in terms of hobby stuff until I can get my hands on those Starblood Stalkers. Um, and otherwise, I mean, I've done some tinkering around with decks and stuff, but for the most part, just been kind of busy doing work, um, COVID related stuff. So it's been very unpredictable, like whether I'm going to be on very normal hours or very extra busy hours. So everything's changing from day to day. It's very fun. How about you? What the hex is? I mean, I guess you kind of just told us what the hex has been going on with you, but anything hobby specific you want to call out?
I did get to try out Arena Mortis with a webcam game with my brother and his friend out on the island, and that was pretty fun. It was I think we were super. I think I called it Shadespire Palooza because we had Riptooth, we had Eagle Eye, and we had the Warden, the Sepulchral Warden, all duking it out. So all season 1
All
fighters.
right.
And then on top of that, my brother made a pretty gruesome deck. I think concealed weapon, army of one, acrobatic, survival instincts, like all came out. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, so Riptooth can't be driven off the objective, and he's rolling 4 defense dice, and like everything counts, and he crits up to 5 damage. Like, oh, what the hell is going on? But it was really kind of shocking to see some of those season 1 cards again. You kind of they used to be like just second nature, and here I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot like how lethal the game was in season 1 at times.
Yeah, some very powerful stuff back in those days.
Yeah, but it was really fun. It was cool to check out a different way to play. It was a nice change of pace. We got a few things wrong, which was our first time through, so that is fine. It was a good way to learn, and I'd recommend it for a change of pace. It's really cool. So
nice.
What do you say? Should we move it along? Get into the meat of things.
Let's just jump right in here. So, quick overview. We're planning to just sort of talk through the fighters and the warbands, just play styles in general. Hit on the new mechanic because this warband introduces the desecration mechanic, which is new and unique to this warband, and then just hit on some standout faction cards that we think probably are going to be the sort of defining features of this warband. And if we, guess we'll see. Universals are potentially going to be a separate review.
Yeah, let's see if we get the time to get there.
Yep. All right, so we got these new fighters. You wanna kick things off with the El Capitan herself?
Sure, Kagra the Usurper. She is sporting a pretty boss attack here. 2 smash, 3 damage, knockback 1. So that's pretty fun. Only speed 3. She's defending on a block, and she's got 4 health. And she specifically feeds into this desecration thing by either killing somebody on an objective. This is a sacrifice ability, or being on an objective when she kills somebody. And they inspire by triggering this sort of thing on 3. They got to have 3 desecration counters out.
Yeah, and I guess it's not 100% clear, but I think that the way it's worded, since it's just 3 or more desecration tokens, if they were to face, if it was the mirror match,
sure,
it counts all desecration tokens, not just friendly ones.
I agree. There's going to be some Slaves to Darkness inspired in that matchup.
Yeah. And I think their base stats are all the same. They're all move 3, 1 block, 4 wound. No, that's not quite correct.
Not quite.
So
who's the exception, Phil?
Well, as I'm checking here, Zarshia Bittersoul, the wizard in this warband, is the exception. Instead of 4 wounds, she has 3 wounds. So just a little bit squishier. Um, and like I said, she is a wizard. She is a level 2 wizard, which is nice. Not seeing any of those level 1 wizards like we got back in Beastgrave
Yeah, I think this
and
is our
Nightvault.
first time we've got a starting out at level 2 wizard that is not a leader, right?
Yeah, I think that is true. I think, in fact, have we had any other wizards that? Oh, that's no. So Stormsires, I guess, would be the only one that has wizards that aren't the leader, right?
No, Carthane, right? He's
Oh
the
yeah, and
horn tootin,
Carthane.
horn tootinist.
You're starting to get so many warbands. Hard to
It's hard
keep
to
them all straight.
sure.
But yeah, so a level 2 starting out, which is pretty nice. Um, Otherwise, she's got 2 different attacks. They're both reach. The first one is her staff, which is reach 2, which is 2 smash, but only for 1 damage. And then the her spell attack, which is range 3 on. Oh man, I can never remember what it's called. Channel is the lightning bolts or channel. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so just on channel for 1 damage, which I think is the only printed channel spell attack, except I guess for inspired. What's her name?
Inspired Nurgle lady.
Yep. Nailed it. Perfect. Yeah. So I mean, well, she doesn't hit very hard. She's pretty accurate. Which I guess is okay. It'd be nice if there was more ways to boost range damage right now, but unfortunately there's not. So that's, so she's really accurate, but you're not going to hit very hard until she inspires. And she does have a interesting ability on that Spite Tongue curse where if the attack fails, she does suffer backlash. So she takes a damage every time she fails that attack, which kind of scary. Although it does allow you to score immediately for 2 for having a fighter suffer backlash and not die.
If you have that objective, the addicted to power.
Yeah. So I mean, you can play around it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. And then notably, she can desecrate from range, which is kind of cool. So
yeah,
she can blow an objective up from kind of far away.
Yeah, and I guess it's probably worth noting all of the fighters do have the sacrifice special ability that's described on Kagra's card, and it just references Kagra's card, so they all do it, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So besides the leader and her sister, we got these 2, I guess if you can call them Dangle Bros.
Did we mention that she inspires to get, the only thing she gets out of inspiration is 1 extra damage on her spell attack?
No, we did not mention that, but she does. She gets 1 extra damage. She does actually get ensnare on her staff attack as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So, ensnare with 1 damage. That's definitely going to be your go-to attack.
I'm going to lose a game because of that.
Probably.
I laughed about it. So, but yeah, a range 3, 2 damage on channels. That's a pretty boss attack. It's just attached to a relatively fragile.
Relatively fragile and relatively slow fighter. I guess that's actually another difference. So Kagra and I think both of the Dangle Bros inspire up to speed 4. Zarshia stays at speed 3.
Yeah.
So, can't have everything.
Speaking of those danglers, you got Dower Kragan. Both these guys, if they are on an objective at the end of the action phase, they'll desecrate that objective. So they can do it just by standing on something at the end of the action phase. Dower Kragan is really two-roshing it up. He's got his shield on his back and doesn't remember that it's there. So at least he's still on blocks because he's in big armor, but he does not inspire to 2 block. He's on 3 fury, 2 damage, and inspiration gets him that speed and bumps him to cleave, which in this day and age of people on guard, often on objectives, it's not nothing.
Yeah. I mean, and he doesn't gain a whole lot of accuracy with cleave. The fact that he starts on 3 swords means he's slightly more accurate than he would be on 2 smash, which is sort of your average attack.
Hmm.
So I feel like he's all right. He's your more accurate fighter. I don't see anything wrong with him. Like, I mean, calling him a dangle bro is maybe almost not quite a fair assessment,
Yeah,
because I mean he's better than the
it's
majority of other fighters, and
pretty aspirational stat line for
yeah.
like uh, Karsus, not Karsus. Oh man, we're just gonna miss all these names at this point. Uh, yeah, inspirational for Tourage. How
Yep.
about that?
Yeah. There it is. There he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the only other thing that I've been would mention about the despoil is that so so you have to be holding an objective in the end of an action phase to be able to place this. So if there's already someone else's desecration token, it doesn't work.
Mm.
But the desecrate ability doesn't really distinguish friendly and enemy tokens either. So if you're
Mm.
in the mirror match again, things get a little weird, and I think we're gonna need an errata to decide, like, if these guys are standing on an objective that already is desecrated, do they clear that and then desecrate it again? And then can they clear their own desecration tokens? Because in the mirror match, it doesn't say friendly for clearing them at the beginning of a or at the end of the power step. So
Oh wow,
uh, need
spicy.
some weird, I think, rules lawyering that's going to happen until we get an FAQ there.
Maybe a good time to mention how you undesecrate these things and what desecration means.
Yeah. I guess we probably should have talked about that before we really dove into all the fighter cards, since it's such a major part of them. So
Yeah.
desecration um, is, no matter how you manage to do it, when you desecrate the objectives, you place the desecration token on it, and at that point, it cannot be held. Um, and then if it's moved, the token moves around with it as well.
Hmm.
Um, I don't recall if it mentioned anything about what happens if the token gets flipped.
It goes away.
Goes away. Okay,
Yeah.
which is what I thought, but I couldn't remember. Um, so that's how you desecrate. But then, if a enemy fighter stands on an objective with a desecration token on it, uh, after the power step, they then cleanse the desecration token, and it is removed from the objective.
Yeah, it's an interesting timing window. I don't think we've ever seen an after the power step
Yeah,
thing, or if we have, it's quite rare. So
yeah.
functionally, what does this actually do, Phil?
So functionally, I mean, this helps to deny hold objective play, but pretty much only for scoring immediately. Um, because anybody who wants to score in the end phase can still do so, as long as they can keep their fighters on the desecrated objectives until the end phase.
Hmm.
So the overall counterplay there is like, I don't know. I was originally imagining, when they first put up the article, that it would be a little harder to remove these. I thought it would like take an action or something. But I figured there must have been a way to remove them, because just removing them from the game forever
Hmm.
felt like it would be too strong.
Hmm. Yeah, it was hard to picture exactly how it was going to land. This is about as conservative as you could imagine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, I still think it's valuable. I mean, making your opponent have to work that little bit more to score those hold objective things, while you're also being able to gain some benefit from desecration, still
Sure.
seems good, but um, maybe not as powerful as people were originally thinking.
Yeah. Interesting is that it the part of hold objective that it pumps the brakes on is the surge one, which, you know, I would say 10 months ago we would have been begging for, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Temp, temp victory heyday and all that sort of thing. So
for sure. and I mean, I think we're still seeing that, just with some different cards now. So you get, oh, what's the one where you just hold two? Um, I can't
You mean
remember.
hold? You're talking Path to Victory.
Yeah.
Hold two and kill somebody.
Oh no, the score immediately for holding two objectives.
Hidden Purpose.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
You still see that, and you still see a few other things like swift capture. So you still see those quite a bit, and I think this will mess that up. So I mean that's good. And then you know I think you know this also means that if you can really plan your board state well, you can probably sort of dictate how things are going to have to go for your opponent if they want to
Mhm.
do anything with objectives, um, while also being able to like use them as your springboard, because um, you're still probably going to want these to be placed aggressively so that you can desecrate them without having to just lose actions.
Sure. Yeah.
After that little detour,
Sure.
let's wrap things up with a quick,
Yeah. Razek.
quick discussion about the God Blessed.
Yeah. He gets quite a bit. So he gets an extra block. He gets an extra move, and his attack goes from 2 smash 2 damage to 3 smash 2 damage. So quite accurate.
Yeah.
So he's pretty tasty. Um, yeah. I mean these feel like real solid members. Like they're if you obviously Kagra's got the potential to do a whole lot of work for you, but it feels like if she goes down, these guys can. It's not like you're flailing around, with Haka and Basha or something like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've got some work that you can do with these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it very much feels like Magor's Fiends, where
Hmm.
like they are all pretty good on the like none of them are they're not all super powered like Kagra, but they're still gonna do work if you let them.
Hmm.
Few
Totally.
upgrades, and all of a sudden these guys are gonna be super scary.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. We want to talk a little play style here, or talk cards first. What would you?
Yeah, let's talk cards, and then we
Okay.
can sort of, after having talked about all the cards, we can kind of circle back on
Sure.
how they probably are going to use those cards.
I think our usual is to not go through every single card. We kind of go through cards that we think are interesting, and
Yeah.
as usual, they're interesting either because they're powerful, because they seem like they have some flaw, but it's an interesting flaw, or that they just they, whatever reason. There's a dealer's choice there too, where we can just our prerogative to say it's interesting. Take our word for it. So
Yeah.
uh, let's start usually with objectives. You got something that you like on objectives?
Yeah, got a few here. I guess the first one that I wanted to just think about was Desolate Domain. I don't think it's their strongest one, but I think that it sort of sets the stage for being able to take a couple different approaches of how you want to play. So this is a surge. You score it immediately after an activation if each objective token in one or more players' territories has a desecration token.
Mm.
So I like this because it sort of, no matter when you draw it, you probably have an easy way into it. Because if
Hmm.
you draw it at the early part of the game, you just probably hold back, desecrate your own stuff, get some glory going, and then you're off to the races. If you draw it late and you're already in enemy territory, then hopefully you set the board up in such a way that you can desecrate their objectives fairly easily.
Yeah, I think hand in hand with that is brutal desecration,
Yeah, definitely.
which is also a surge, also one glory. It's probably what you take before you take Desolate Domain, uh, because it just is surge for one as once you desecrate
Yep.
an objective. And so these are both interesting because they can they're one of those relatively rare objectives, and I almost always find these to be particularly valuable. Is that actually has the potential to be scored? We'll see later with some of their gambits, has the potential to be scored in the power step,
Hmm.
which really has the potential to swing things. So, uh, and like you said, can be scored at different times during the game. Like they're going to be available at different stages, and you flip it, you score that, and you can surprise somebody by getting that glory, getting an upgrade down, and then heading in. So,
Yeah. And I think they feel pretty play style independent. So, like,
mm-hmm.
if you wanted to be super aggressive, you could still run both of these. If you wanted to play defensive, you could run both of these. So,
Sure.
I expect to see both of these in almost every single deck that people build because they're two very easy surges. One obviously much easier than the other, but
Yeah.
I mean, generally
I,
speaking, you're probably Desolate Domain is probably going to require you to put down one or two
yeah.
tokens, and then you get it.
Yeah. I think Brutal Desecration for sure. And I think Desolate Domain will come in and out of people's decks depending on exactly how heavy they're leaning towards that Desecration mechanic. Um, Worth mentioning, Absolute Desecration. Uh, Third end phase,
uh,
you have to have 4 Desecrated. I think this is really hard, but
yeah,
that's a big score. Like that's pretty rare. So I don't know. I don't know if that's doable. Um, but
I've just got
but if
to.
I was playing against them, I'd be a little worried. You know, like
Yeah,
if they were at 3, I'd be like, oh man, I better undesecrate some of these right quick. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, it feels like such a risky play though, because I mean, third end phase
mhm.
could brick your hand. Also, like you just might not have enough fighters to just have the actions to go do it.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think there's the potential, and for
Mhm.
four glory, that payoff might be good enough. So we'll
Yeah.
see. People might get creative there.
Yeah. And I guess malevolent exploits along the same lines. So this is surge, score immediately when you play your third or subsequent power card in a single power step. Again, like playstyle independent. If you've got the cards, this is more so if you have a little breathing room to draw to make give you a better chance of getting to this. But um, that is something that you can kind of score. It helps you move you to a little more of a mid range area where you can kind of power up before going in.
Yeah. And I think this card feels like a direct response to Unexpected Cunning from Hrothgorn, where they realized that 3 power cards in a phase is too easy. So
Yeah.
uh, they're like, hey, still 3 power cards, but it's all in one power step. So,
Yeah, I think every time you play it, I refer to it as like
oh,
Surge for one. Did you play Warhammer Underworlds?
yeah. Yep.
So
Yeah.
I think in all our games, and you've played a number of them. I think only once did you ever have that brick on you, and I think it was some. It might have been a worm spat matchup where I stood way back and you had 4 upgrades that you thought would. I don't know. I
Yeah.
remember
One of those
being
situations probably
shocked
should
that
have.
that card had ever bricked. But
Probably should have just dumped the hand kind of thing.
yeah.
It's more of a comment on my choices than anything else.
Uh, do you have any more objectives? And if not, what about what about a gambit?
So I think um, the only other one of these objectives that I sort of look at and say maybe would be On the Dark Road. It is a hybrid. I think it's their only hybrid. So if you're trying to go that route, that might help you a little bit um, for stacking hybrids. But it's a reprint. It's one we've seen before, where it's either you have one fighter with 3 or more upgrades, or each of your fighters with 1 or more upgrades, and it's for 1.
Hmm.
Still end phase, but fairly reliable. I think there's one that's like this for hunters that I think sometimes gets some
The Great
use.
Hunt, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, so I could see this one getting played. Just kind of depends on how you're trying to set things up.
sure. Yeah, but it's pretty reliable turn 2 onwards, and doesn't necessarily push your objective deck into one direction or another. It keeps you neutral,
Yep,
allows you to expand different ways. Um,
definitely.
what about a gambit you like?
So the one that jumped out at me first was their Ravaging Advance.
Mm-hmm.
This card, so it allows you to push each friendly fighter that's not in enemy territory one hex towards enemy territory.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a little bit restrictive. It's not just a push all your fighters, because that, of course, is really good, but it's still probably more often than not just push all your fighters one hex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and even if this ends up being a sidestep, like
Mm-hmm.
sidestep's still really good. So
Sure. I mean, it's almost four sidesteps. If you're, I mean, it's great. It's a great aggro push, right?
yeah, yep,
Every one of your fighters bumps forward one. It's better than giving them. Generally speaking, it's better than giving them +1 speed for the round because they may step next to somebody and then be able to take a couple hacks before charging.
yeah. So
Um,
especially since they're slow, I think that's probably super
yeah,
valuable for them.
yeah.
What
I
about
guess
you?
late in the game, once you're in enemy territory, it slows down, but it keeps your stragglers, keeps your second wave coming. Because a lot of times,
Yeah,
deployment, you're going to end up with somebody towards the back that uh, can't get involved without some help.
that's very true. How about you? Anything that's really jumping out at you?
Uh, yeah. I wrote dem spells. I
Yeah,
really like both the gambit spells here. There's we'll start with the slightly marginally less exciting one. Whispers of Chaos. It's one that goes on a focus. If cast, choose an enemy fighter within 3 hexes of the caster. Push that fighter up to 1 hex. Then pick deal 1 damage or give that fighter 1 move token. So uh, it would be a little too pricey if it was just a push. Although the push is pretty nice. Pushes are always great. This is like kind of a 75% to go off distraction. But both those effects, the 1 damage, like if you can pop them to a lethal and a damage is like a 2 damage spell on a gambit, or giving somebody a move token is just crushing. Like
yeah,
is a possible to fail, but range 3 transfixing gaze, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. And I mean, I feel like we're seeing more ways to start to put move tokens on people, and I think like if you were to start stacking some of that stuff into a deck now,
mhm.
you could probably have some really nasty control builds where it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna pick one or two of your fighters every turn to just say, no, you're not doing anything. And like, if you don't have range,
Mhm.
then you literally just are stuck. Um, so that could be, that could literally win you a game, like in a
Yeah,
round 3.
yeah, crushing. Its biggest drawback is not the fact that you have to cast it on one focus, or it kind of is. The biggest drawback is that it's basically restricted, that you have to keep your most fragile fighter alive in order to use it, and
Yeah,
also has to close within 3. So there's plenty of risk there. Uh, this other one, Mask of Darkness, also hits on a focus, but this is choose a friendly fighter within 3 and then place them in an objective in enemy territory, and then they get a move token. So you can teleport a dude in, which is pretty great.
yeah,
You come flying in. Uh, it's going to prompt people to try to cover up their objectives. It's like Gambit speed, Feynway Crystal, which, whew,
yeah,
whew.
yeah. Well, and then it's like, even beyond that, it's a non-telegraphed Fenway crystal.
Sure, right,
So
right,
no,
right, exactly.
they don't know. You don't know when it's coming. It's like, oh man, yeah, another one that could probably win you a game. So,
Hmm.
and it really would help with that's their, again, stuff that's helping deal with their low speed. So
Hmm. Sure.
really enjoy seeing that. Um, I guess for anything else, so there's only one other one that well, okay, so that's not entirely true, but I guess the other one that I would maybe want to just quickly talk about is just Eye of the Gods. it seems like it could be a very flexible ability. It's
Mm-hmm.
effectively an upgrade that's a ploy.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to, if, uh, so you can play this only if one or more enemy leaders are out of action. So basically, you've had to have killed your enemy's leader already, but then you get to choose +1 dice, +1 damage, cleave or ensnare, and then your leader's range 1 and range 2 attack actions gain that effect, and it persists till they're out of action.
Yeah.
I think the flexibility there feels really strong, but I do think that the limitations maybe make it not quite good enough that it's going to find its way into decks. But I could see like situations where you're going up against relatively low wound but high defense warband, and you're like, "Yep, I just need extra dice. I just need to roll all the dice." Or going up against Mollog, and you're like, "I just need some more damage." Like I don't know. I like the flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it necessarily had to have like all the restrictions. Like maybe you could say just this applies on your leader's attacks after having killed an enemy leader. So then if you
Mm-hmm.
equipped like a range 3 attack, all of a sudden it would have these bonuses. But either way, I still think it's interesting.
Sure. I like Flames of Spite. That is +1 damage. It's a reaction that you play once you've gotten to the determined success part of the attack, and you get +1 damage if you had rolled a crit. So obviously you're crit fishing, but that is pretty nice. A gambit speed damage boost at a reaction window. Twist the Knife was incredibly powerful, and this one is gated behind a crit. And this one has no range requirement, so even Zarshia can blat
Yeah.
somebody for extra damage, and it's not. It increases the damage of that attack, which means that it's the attack taking somebody out, which means that your sacrifice ability has a chance to trigger rather than being a gambit that takes somebody out of action.
Yeah.
So
And it would be, probably the only gambit since Twist the Knife that would allow you to still score things like, get a kill, in enemy territory or whatever.
sure,
That you would need the extra damage from this ploy to be able to do it.
hmm
Um,
yeah, helps
Pretty
with
much
primal
everything
sneak. Yeah,
else is just like, hey, the damage actually is from the ploy, so then you don't score the objectives. So
right, right.
definitely helps you into an aggro build there.
Yeah. So pretty cool. I guess, and we're kind of hitting a lot of them here, but I thought Spurred On was pretty cool. This is a uh, reaction after your friendly leader's move action. Choose another friendly fighter. That fighter makes one move action. That other fighter could have no move tokens. It could have a move token. It could have a charge token.
It's true.
So this is kind of repositioning thing, which I think is can be deceptively powerful. So bring a backline person up, bring somebody who's charged into a dangerous spot to a safe spot. If somebody has charged and killed somebody on an objective, then you can use this to just have them step one more and get on. So I think there's a lot of interesting things, or bring it in to give you support. So if you're getting ready to make an
Yeah.
important,
Yeah. Very flexible. And I guess just to make sure that the point is known, like there's no range on this. It's just after your leader's move, you can
yeah,
have another fighter make a move.
yeah,
Not within 3 or anything like that. You just get to do it, which is pretty great. A lot of times I feel like other movement ploys have some
mm-hmm,
sort of restriction to say
mm-hmm,
like, hey, they need to be close to each other, or it's like move the move has to end up next to the person that you previously moved or something like that. So
sure, yeah, it's pretty wide open. So, what about upgrades?
yeah.
Anything catch your eye there?
So I mean, I think we can just quickly touch on like there's 3 super basic but pretty good ones, and I think we don't need to spend much time on them, but they're cool that they're there. So there's Ruinous Might, which is just great strength.
Mm-hmm,
Infection, great strength is always a good thing.
mm-hmm.
Bolstered Hate, which is infection,
Great fortitude.
great fortitude. That was one. I
Yeah.
was like, I want to say great stamina. That's not right. Great fortitude, which again, having a reprint of that is really strong. +1 wounds just to anybody is really good. And then grudging defense, which I don't I don't know that we really have any other upgrades like this, but at least in faction cards, but it's just this fighter is on guard just all the time.
Yeah.
It's obviously good, especially on your fighters that go up to 2 defense. So
Sure.
how about you? Anything jumping out at you?
My stealth powerful card is Desecrator Gauntlets. This is
Man, yeah.
reaction. After this fighter's move action, push one adjacent enemy fighter 1 hex. I feel like you can do some pretty cool stuff with that. So you can run up, get ready to attack somebody else, and throw another person off an objective. You can drag somebody into a lethal before you attack them. You can throw somebody away that was going to be helping support. You can drag somebody, towards you so that you can knock them back towards your other fighters. I think there's a lot of really fun stuff to do. I don't know if it's the most powerful card in the world, but I love all the different tricks you have a chance to do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just, there's a lot you can do there. And I think it's hard to quantify, like, how good is that going to be? Because I think it'll really depend on the player.
Sure.
I guess, would you be, since it's a reaction, you could do it during a charge, right?
Sure could. Yeah. So you could slide them over to a trapped position, all that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it's limited somewhat by their smaller move. But if you get this on the guy that you then spur on, one guy could do it twice in one turn, or 3 times if. Well, no. Let's see.
It's not getting too crazy.
3 times if you get Visions of Glory on him. Charge, clear it, charge. Then your leader moves him.
Whew.
Just tossing people around.
Oh man, yeah, that could really mess people up.
You get non-honorary glory just for doing that many triggers on Desecrator Gauntlets. So.
Yeah. All right. So I think maybe in that same vein of like maybe stealthy good cards. So we got the Blazing Rune Shield. I think right now, given the way the meta is, it's probably not very good. But I think people need to remember this card is here because it's restricted to Kagra, Razak, or Kragan, so you can't put it on the wizard, but it just says spells cannot deal damage to this fighter. Flat. No spell gambits, no spell attacks. They just can't be hurt with spells.
So just a tool to have in the toolbox down the line here.
Yeah, I mean, like just imagine how backbreaking that is against Stormsire.
You mostly just want to hose Stormsire. I'll take a dead card against everyone else to hose Stormsire.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what we're going to see in terms of upcoming Magic and Wizards and stuff, but like, I don't know. It just feels like one of those cards that it could end up being ridiculous because you could basically make a fighter in certain matchups just almost untouchable.
Sure.
Because if you've built everything around Magic, then it's like, well, you just can't do it now.
Yeah. For me, I like Hellfire Sword. It's restricted to Kagra and Razak. So restricted, but not so restricted that you're likely to have, you probably might have lost one of them, but probably not both of them. And, oh boy, range 3, hit on 2 smash for 2 damage. That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
That'll do some work, especially if you're in the middle of, a Grimwatch board and just blowing people off of objectives as they run onto them. That's pretty fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. It's hard to undersell like how good 2 smash for 2 damage is when you have reach with it. Because I mean, 2 smash 2 damage on reach 2 is usually considered to be pretty good. Put it on reach 3. I don't know. I think it'll be hard. Like thinking about that on the board of like how dangerous that fighter all of a sudden becomes. It's just something we don't usually have to deal with, except for like thinking about Stormsire, who effectively is like that with his spell attack. So
yeah. So
I think that one is definitely up there.
Okay. Any more upgrades you want to mention, or should we talk a little overall strategy with these guys?
I think the only other one, I don't know, I think maybe you would want to talk about this one, but Unearthly Charisma.
Oh yeah, this is a +1 dice to other fighters' range 1 attack actions if they're within 2 of this fighter. I think on further look, I guess it doesn't do so. You have to put it on Kagra, and then it's only going to help out your 2 supporting fellows, uh, Kragan and Razek, because Zarshia does not have a range 1 attack. But an extra dice that you will trigger, at up a couple times, maybe more, depending on positioning, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I mostly, I think I tag that just because it's not the kind of objective that we've seen very often, where you put something on one fighter that helps other fighters rather than the fighter themselves. So
Yeah. And I guess it could still help Zarshia if you wanted to put a weapon upgrade on her. So
sure, yeah,
I don't know. +1 dice
yeah,
aura could still be good. I think it's probably the first time we've seen something like that. So it's pretty interesting.
yeah, for sure. Even if it doesn't make it into decks, I like that it exists. And I like that it's there to think about. So, what do you think based on all these in faction objectives that we've seen, and then obviously we've played 0 games with these, so
Yeah.
it'll be fun to see what these predictions where they take us. But what do you feel like? What do you feel like their main strategy is, and how they go about that?
Yeah. So I think it's fairly safe to say that they're probably leaning towards aggro.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's definitely the low hanging fruit. Um, I guess technically you could say that it's sort of like an aggro flex where they're going to be doing aggro and desecration together and trying to use those two things in a synergy to try and like, I mean, it was like sort of like I was thinking earlier. The strategy that jumped out to me was that you set up the board so that you can use objectives sort of as your leapfrog points,
Mm-hmm.
where as you move up to your opponent, if they're not coming to you, you slowly desecrate the field. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you get there, you're just chopping people up and you've hopefully scored some glory along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with respect to that, I think the players that can really leverage some of that. I think we talked about some mid-range potential with some of the ability to score passively, but not blow the game out passively, but just get your engine started passively, and then engage once you're powered up. That's pretty valuable. That's one of the stronger play styles in my mind. Um, but with the whole desecration thing, if you're real good at objective token placement in a way that I am not, then I think you can. I think you have a shot. I think that inspire condition is pretty tough, but I think with clever placement of tokens, you can make things difficult for your opponent and set yourself up for at least threatening the inspire, and giving them some hard choices of, do how do I try to stop this inspire? What if they have one of the gambits in their hand that flips a token? Like they, I think that's I think the real good, if we see some Ravagers players, the real good ones are going to be real good at placing their objective tokens.
I would definitely agree. Any other play styles that you think they'll be good at, or any other things that you think they should at least try?
There's some, so it's weird. They could score some of these. They could score things like hidden purpose, uh, but they are challenged. They're not going to score, like they're kind of sealed out from things like path to victory and dominant position, because 2 of their fighters are going to uh, basically make a trash heap of whatever objective they're standing on.
Yeah.
Uh, a trash heap that is not too difficult to clean up, but a trash heap nonetheless. And so you're the most you're ever going to hold with this warband is 2, maybe 3 if you have triumphant, glorious
Yeah.
triumph. That's the most they're ever going to hold. and even that's pretty unlikely. So they kind of have that whole side of play sealed off to them. So I don't think they have a lot of different options that's going to surprise somebody. I think it depends on how heavy the question is always going to be how heavily have you leaned into desecration and how and not, and are you reaching for that absolute desecration for a big end swing?
Yeah. So
Uh,
what do you think? I mean, you tell me if I'm crazy, but so what if you were to use the three big guys as bodyguards for Zarshia? Well, you built up to do a Lost Pages build.
uh, I would say, hope you've got a wheelbarrow to carry around your cojones, because you are sweating some on the 3 health fighter. Now that said, it's not like as if you're uh, trying to do it in Godsworn Hunt or something like that.
Right.
You are 3 health, but you are a block, and they have access to some in-faction uh, buffs, and she's got a ranged attack, so she can protect herself. You could shock somebody with it, and with the right wall of beef in front of her, you could be able to protect her pretty well. I don't know. It's quite possible.
Yeah.
Like have the other 3 push forward, and she just
Hangs
takes a
back
nap at the back until she finds her book, and
and then realizes that she's the star of the show.
sure. I think she thinks she's the star of the show
Probably.
already.
It's probably why she has a card that can make her the leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to be anything great, but I think it's at least there. I think there's the possibility that you could do some stuff with Zarshia that would probably catch people off guard. So
Sure.
I think there's
Yeah.
some potential for magic play. I think we don't have enough universals right now to really try that though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's sort of the only other thing I could think of for how I would play these guys, other than just going ham with the aggro and trying to smash people in.
Sure. Yeah. I hope we didn't talk much about this, but there's been some kind of, it feels like the first reaction has been a little negative from folks. They think they're maybe
Yeah.
underpowered or maybe going to struggle. And that is exactly the sort of thing that starts to pique my interest. So
Yeah.
I remember seeing similar commentary about the far strategies when they first came out, and it was a warband that from the figures I wasn't particularly interested in, but once people were doubting, I was like, well, maybe this is my warband. So I'd like to take a crack at
I
these
mean, is
if
this going to be your Godsworn Hunt version 2?
I yeah, be the once there's another Grand Clash, be the only one bringing it up.
Yeah. No, I think I agree. I've definitely seen a decent amount of chatter that like, yeah, they're not that good and like they don't hold up or whatever. And I guess I'd say it's pretty early to make
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
that distinction. I mean, is are there mechanics potentially not as strong as some of the warbands we've seen? Yeah,
Hmm.
sure. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that no, their mechanics are spectacular. Like
Hmm.
desecration is probably a little too easy to reverse
Hmm.
for that to be like your sole thing, but it feels like a nice like extra. It feels
Hmm.
like you're playing Magor's Fiends and you've got that little extra thing to just stick it to people who want objectives.
Sure. Yep.
So, I mean, I don't personally think there's anything wrong with Magor's Fiends, so I don't think there's anything wrong with these guys.
Yeah. And 2 blocks, no joke. Like if you inspire 2 of your fighters to go up to 2 block, that's pretty tanky on the counterpunch. So if you can find a way to get
Mm-hmm.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I guess we didn't mention it, but they do have a ploy that allows you to inspire a fighter.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so if you really need somebody to go up and become sort of your mini Mollog or whatever,
Hmm.
you can do that.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think like you're not going to be completely locked out if you can't get the 3 desecration tokens out.
Right. But yeah. So in summary, lot of cool things in there, and I would look forward to seeing this very creative community find ways to make them sing.
Definitely. People who are more creative than I.
Sure, because you're busy dreaming of everything that could be with the Seraphon. So.
Yeah. I was very scared when I first saw these guys come out because I think Seraphon are going to need to hold objectives. And I was like, oh my God, they released like the perfect hard counter for Seraphon right before they come out. It's the worst. And then turns out, no, it's really not the case. So,
Yeah. Quick reverse note. You brought up Eye of the Gods. I was looking at a close up of the art. If you look in the background, there are 4 shadows behind Kagra.
yeah.
It is each of the 4 greater demons. You can kind of see the silhouettes of them.
Ooh,
So that's kind of a cool little art touch.
yeah.
Left to right, you got a great unclean one, a bloodthirster, a keeper, and a Lord of Change, all kind of cheering her on. So.
Kagra, the new Archaon. Watch out, bud. She's coming for you.
Yeah. You got to figure out who gives what, the +1 dice, +1 damage cleaver, and a snare, which one's coming from which. So.
Yeah.
Anyhow, if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah. If you've got thoughts on that, you can let us know. You can always get in touch with us at WTHcast on Twitter or whatthehexcast@gmail.com. And if you'd like to get more of our content or any of the other Mortal Realms content, you can find all of that at themortalrealms.com. And if you're interested,
go ahead. Sorry.
we do have some shirts and sweatshirts that are available if you're interested, and that's for all of the different shows on the Mortal Realms.
Yeah, Phil got mine right before lockdown, and we've not been. So he's just keeping it safe for me, hermetically sealed.
Yep.
I know those Dogs of Warcry guys just finished up their most recent season.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing great. We have people flooding into our Discord, talking them up. So they, I haven't listened to their last couple episodes, but they put on a great show. So
yeah, I mean, if you want Warcry content, they're cranking it out, and I honestly haven't seen a whole lot of other Warcry content. So if you're interested, that's the place.
And if you're not, why not?
Yeah.
Right. I think we don't know what we're coming back at you with right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of different avenues we could take here.
Yeah. We remain on that unpredictable schedule for now, just kind of working around our own personal pandemic limitations on what we can. But rest assured, we're going to be back at you as soon as we can with something worth listening to, we hope you think. Recommended listening for this episode is Call Broken Arrow by At the Drive-In. It's from their Inter Alia album. I think that does. You got any last thoughts there, Phil?
No last thoughts. This was a fun one to talk about.
Sure.
And for What the Hex, this has been Phil.
And I've been Davy. Well, you're the host. You want to close us out?
Oh, yeah. All right. And man, how do you usually start that? I guess usually it's just...
I'd make sure it's as awkward as possible, as start and stop as possible.
My goodness. Embarrassing myself tonight.